back to this month's reading wrap up, which is March. How did we get to the end of March? I don't know. It felt like it went far too quick, but here we are. I'm once again filming on my phone because my camera is still broken, and I unfortunately still don't have a tripod. Well, I mean, technically speaking, I do have a tripod. It's just my sister has it, and her room is a pigsty, so I can't find it anywhere. So if you fall over at any point, that's why. I'm sorry. I hope I've leaned you against something a bit more stable than I did last month, but you know, here we are. Anything we can do about that now. But, and again, obviously I'm filming on my phone. I don't remember if I said that or not. It's bad. I should just said it. But if I look in a different direction than the then like right at you, it's because I'm looking at the image of the video instead of the camera, and I apologize. But anyway, this month, let's get into it. Obviously, this month I once again started with the rereading Tabanoff and Dapko, which is not what I intended to do, but it's what happened because basically at the start of the month I had really bad nausea, so I didn't really feel like reading like a physical book, so I listened to the audiobook of Tabanoff. I forgot to get the picture, give me a second. Right, as I was saying, I listened to the audiobook of Tabanoff, and then if you're not aware, generally when I listen to audiobooks I like colouring, and this is what I coloured this month, which I like colouring in this superhero colouring book. So superhero is based off of pride flags. So this is the gender fluid, yes, the gender fluid flag. It was fun. Now, right, and then obviously immediately after I finished the audiobook, I reread Dapko. What I meant to start the month with was Compound Fracture by Andrew Joseph White, which I said at the end of last month. I did say I was reading this, so if you watched last month, first off, thank you. So this shouldn't really be a surprise to anyone. Did I introduce myself? Oh shit, I forget to do that. I'm Milo. Hello, hi. But anyway, Compound Fracture, which is the third book by this author, and for some reason is another YA book, which follows Miles. And before I state anything, nothing happens to the dog. That was my main concern going in, and don't worry, nothing happens to the dog. I know that's a spoiler, but I think it's an important thing to spoil, alright? So this is about Miles Abernathy, who basically, the day he comes out as trans to his parents, he gets basically beaten to almost death. Not great, and because the reason he gets beat up is because his family is in like a generational war with the sheriff and his family. Set in West Virginia in America in 2017, which is very prevalent to the book because obviously it comes up quite a lot. So if you don't like books that are set during modern day, or like, you know, like actual contemporary books, you've been like, obviously this is a horror novel, but I think, to be fair, I think this is probably the least gory. I mean, I could be completely wrong about that because I don't read. The only horror books I've read outside of these the books by this author are the FNAF books. So, frankly, I'm not best at discerning what is or isn't considered gory. I can tell there's a lot of love that goes into this book. Honestly, I didn't really like it. I mean, I rated it 4 stars, so I did like it, but I didn't like it as much as I did Hell Followed With Us and The Spirit Bears Its Teeth. I don't know if that's because I'm British and not American, obviously, so I don't relate to this specifically, but but if you're from the south of America and grew up during the time right after Trump got elected and happened to be queer, I think you'd probably relate to this like a lot more than I did. I want to reread it at some point because, again, at the start of the month I was experiencing really bad nausea, so that probably did affect my reading experience of it quite a lot. Yeah, I did like it for the most part, but I did seriously consider DNFing for a little bit. But I pushed through because of how much I love this author, and that's no hate to him in any variety. And I'm still going to pick up if You Weren't Meant to Be Human, which is coming out later this year, which is his first adult book. I'm actually terrified, but excited as well. Gotta say, when I was reading this, I was also thinking it's kind of similar to the game Night in the Woods, but I don't know if that's just because they're both set in the south of America and deal with horrible conservatives, but you know, and because I was just watching videos of Night in the Woods as I was reading it, so But anyway, again, 4 stars. The next book I read after that was Broken Hearts and Zombie Parts by William Hussey. I'm gonna assume it's pronounced like that because the other way is Hussey. I don't know if that'll get me in trouble. I don't really care, but yeah, which is about this boy Jesse who has a heart problem, and there's a heart problem, and is because of that is slated to get a surgery to fix the heart problem, basically. And then and he wants to shoot a horror movie during the period of time leading up to his surgery, you know, because he wouldn't be able to do it after, like, during the recovery period. At the same time, he also wants to try and get a boyfriend before then, because he thinks that when he has the inevitable scar that will be there after the surgery, no one will want to be with him anymore. He's like 17, so that's understandable thought. So this book was a bit more emotional than I thought it would be. I mean, it was still a YA, so it wasn't specifically deep as a thing, but I think for what it is, the characters are fairly complex, and I definitely think Jesse has ADHD, though I myself do not have ADHD or in any way the license to have it, to like give out diagnosis of ADHD, obviously, so I could be completely reading him wrong, but he definitely gave off that vibe. Yeah, the way this book tackled like body dysmorphia was actually a lot more poignant than I thought it would be. And to think I thought it was just like pick up a cutesy romance after reading a heavy horror book would. Yeah, I rated this 4 stars. I did really enjoy it. Okay, next book I read is Teen Titans Raven by Cami Garcia, and I'm thinking Gabrielle Piccolo is the illustrator, I think. Give me a second. Yes, Gabriella Piccolo is the illustrator. So this is a graphic novel of basically the Teen Titans, and they start with Raven. So in this universe, the specific universe, which is not the main continuity of DC, of like their main comic continuity, Raven recently got into a tragic accident which has given her amnesia and killed her foster mother. And now she's moved to New Orleans. Yes, New Orleans, to live with her foster mother's sister and her daughter. And obviously, if you know about like anything to do with Teen Titans, she has to deal with the fallback of basically her father and trying to get her memory back. And yeah, I enjoyed this. I wish it was longer but I think that's my problem with comics and graphic novels and stuff. It always feels like there should be more, because it didn't really feel like I got to know these characters as well as I would in like a different book. Well, you're saying that I don't think about that when I've like read Heartstopper. Don't really know why. Probably because there's so many of them, and they are pretty long in comparison to how long this is. Yeah, so the pacing felt a bit, well, too fast, honestly, and it felt like we didn't really spend enough time with the characters in this, unfortunately. Yeah, I rated this 4 stars. And the next book I read is the second book in this series, which is Teen Titans Beast Boy, again, which set in the same world as the first book, which is following Garfield Logan. If you're not aware, that is the name of Beast Boy, as he's in his final year of high school, and he's trying to tick off a bucket list to basically impress the cool kids. The way he did that was with a dare to do something, and then as the time he did this is with the dares keep getting more extreme, and then obviously throughout the course of the story he discovers that he has powers and his parents are a bit shifty. That's probably not a great way to summarize this, I apologize, but there's not really much I can say. As before, I wish that this was longer. It is, I think, slightly longer than Raven, or like probably about the same length in actuality. I wish I had more development, because the friend groups in both of these books seem like really amazing and fun, and they seem like really fun characters, but we don't spend enough time like with all of them, I think. Also, the dare aspect, I thought it would feature a lot more. He does like 2 dares, which are pretty intense, I suppose, for a high schooler, or just like in general. I don't know. Never done dares, which just makes you sound really lame. I rated this 4 stars, and I'm sorry if this wasn't completely concise. I'm not a especially concise person. And either way, ratings are feelings. The next book I read, which I don't have with me anymore because I unhauled it, was Nightwing Better Than Batman by... I can't remember, so I'll put the names on the screen. Yeah, so this is the volume 1 of a Nightwing run. I don't know when it was published. I don't know if it's in the main like continuity of the DC universe or not, but I read it, and it was something, I'll give you that. The problem is with DC Comics, like for the main continuity, is that you're never gonna fully understand like specifically what's going on, because like this story specifically begins right at the end of the conclusion of another, so there was like a lot of like plot points that were mentioned that just didn't necessarily make sense, if that makes sense. Basically what happens in the story is Nightwing apparently has just gotten his secret identity back and is doing missions for the Court of Owls, which is like this big elite group, to try and gain information about them from the inside, and like pretending to be their pawn or whatever. And then he has to team up with another guy that I can't remember the name of. To be honest, I got kind of bored by the end of this, so I did rate it 3 stars, which is honestly kind of disappointing, because I do want to read more stuff specifically about the Bat family, but this just wasn't very interesting to me personally. I know a lot of people probably really enjoy this, and considering how quickly it's sold, I know certain people definitely must like it, but for me, I just didn't. And that's just a me thing. I don't hate you if you didn't. If you did like it, and don't hate me, basically. I did rate it 3 stars, so it is a bit neutral. The next book I read was Loki, Where Mischief Lies by Mackenzie Lee, which is a book I have owned since I think 2021, so it was about time I read this. This is a story that's set during the 1800s, where Loki is sent to Earth to try and deal with magical murders and solve like what's going on with and what's killing these people. I gotta say, the build up to that setup was a lot more than I thought it would be. Like, he spent a bit more time on Asgard, like the preamble beforehand, than I thought he would, which was interesting because it was interesting seeing like the dynamics Loki had like with Thor and Odin and Frigga, like pre the first Thor movie. I don't know if this is canon to the first to the MCU or not, but it definitely could fit in there. They'd probably have to change one specific thing, but this was fun. I enjoyed this. This was a lot more emotional than I thought it would be, considering I think this is aimed probably at a younger audience than me, that's for sure. And it did have a pretty bittersweet ending, but it makes sense again for the setup of the first movie. But there were characters, but one character in specifically who I won't spoil, who was introduced, which I wish we could get a follow-up on. At the main point in the MCU, he's definitely dead, because again, 1800s, but I would just be interested in what happened, you know? I rated this 3.75, and I did really enjoy it. I wish there was a follow-up, because this is really good. The next book I read was Time After Time by Louise Pentland. So I finally decided to cash in to the promotion from the Louise Teaches Dan How to Study, or whatever it's called video. I'll link it in the description, and read one of her books. And to say I was pleasantly surprised. Every other book I read outside of stuff by Dan and Phil, I'd kind of been meh. I mean, they're not necessarily bad, they're just not my cup of tea personally. So I really enjoyed this. So it is about this woman named Tabitha who discovers a ring that allows her to travel back to 1989. Very basic summary of the plot, but it's basically all you need to know going in, which is basically all I knew. She's going through a lot that isn't on the back, so I won't spoil it. She uses the ring as an escapism from the stuff she's going through, and I really enjoyed this. I love Tabitha. I love her job. I would love her job, honestly. It sounds so cozy and fun, and I love the description of her house. I hope she kept the house. That's probably a slight spoiler, but not necessarily. And her best friend is incredible. The plot twist at the end, which, you know, you get when the set, which I did not see coming, so hands off to you, Louise Pentland. And so I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye out for Louise's other books now, because I really enjoyed this. If you don't like references to technology in books, you won't like this, because it comes up a lot, probably to highlight the fact that this book is set in 2022 and it wants to distinguish 2022 from 1989 very clearly. Or it could feasibly just be her writing style. I don't know. I've not read any of her other books, so it might just be an on. Or on the topic of technology in books, I don't understand why people don't like it as much as they do, because without it, like, it's a contemporary thing. Like, if you want to read a contemporary book, it's going to mention Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, because that is just a thing in our everyday life, and not to mention it doesn't make sense. And I know it's a bit of escapism, but if social media is an escapism for you as well, it's going to be an escapism for these characters. And one day, in the distant future, books like this could be studied to, like, see what modern 2022 was like, you know? But that's not relevant necessarily to this book. That's just something that confuses me in reading spaces just in general. Because if really, doesn't it show that a character's a lot more like you? And like, if a character who lives in our world can have decent experiences, doesn't that mean you can do? But anyway, I rated this 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. Anyway, the last book I read in March was Sever of the End, Volume 32, which is a series I have been reading for a very long time now, and excited to see where it goes. Obviously, this is the 32nd volume, so I can't exactly go into what happens in this one specifically, but it is set in a world where 8 years prior to the story, a virus wiped out everyone over the age of 12, and then the remaining population was, well, majority of the remaining population was enslaved by vampires. And we follow a main character who was taken in by vampires and then escaped. And this is obviously 32 issues later, a lot has happened since that. And then I rated this 4 stars, and I did really enjoy it. And again, we'll be picking up the next one whenever it's released in England. I'm gonna say I am doing something slightly different than I would usually. If you couldn't tell by the calendar, I'm filming this in March, when I usually film the reading wrap-ups on the 1st of the... So in this situation, I'd usually film this on the 1st of the following month. So usually if things were normal, I'd film this on April 1st and then upload it on the 2nd. In this situation, I'm filming it on on the 30th, and we'll be uploading this on the 1st instead, because I won't have time to film it, for one, because I'm at college on the 31st, so I won't be able to do that. And secondly, if you are unaware, Dan and Phil have just released Tit to streaming through Kiswi. When this goes up, it's not going to be available anymore, but basically the show's released. I've seen it like 3 times, and because of that, I am now in a reading slump. So I don't know how many books I will actually reading. I ended up DNFing a book because I couldn't get through it. I might return to it, who knows, but yeah. But basically, Tit put me in a reading slump again, and still affected by that for the most part, so probably gonna have less books than I did next month. But hey ho, this isn't so bad. So this is everything I read in March. And now I will go through my reading journal. See, added the books I have read, so it's that point onwards. Started the 2nd shelf. Updated the series tracker. You can't tell because it's highlighter pen, but that is ticked. I forgot to show last month, but I did tick that as well. I added the color to how many books I read to March. I want to try and do a different color for each month. These are the books I DNF'd. I wanted to read the like the Winter Soldier book because I really liked the Loki book so much, but I couldn't get through it. And honestly, I don't care about Bucky as much as I do Loki. This probably says something about me. And again, this book is about the Loki from the actual myths, and it felt like it backtracked a lot, which was unfortunate. So it felt like here and there, and it didn't really feel completely concise. It's definitely a very mature and adult book, but I might return to it at some point, but as of right now, I just can't be bothered. Now it's kind of funny is I'm trying to read a different book, also about Loki, right now. That's also sticks water to the myth. So I'm curious. I only got like I think about 30% into the other Loki book. But I am curious to see what's different and what's over that, like how different authors interpret the mythology. But anyway, series tracker I updated. I do intend to continue the Teen Titans series, and here is the spread I did for March, just covering up reviews because it contains spoilers. You can see there's a blank one there. That's for Seraph of the End, because I forgot to print it off, and I don't want to waste ink just printing off one ink or paper just printing off one like little rectangle, so I'm just gonna wait until next month. And then finally, this is what I did for April, because Easter's happening this month, obviously. So I thought it was cute just to cover in eggs. You can really tell that I have an art GCSE. But yeah, that is everything I read in March. That is my reading journal, and that's basically everything. I'm slowly approaching, I don't know when this will happen, but sometime either in the next few months, I will be attempting to read the Percy Jackson series for the first time. So what I was planning on doing was to vlog it. If you're interested in that, please let me know down in the comments. I'm probably going to do a spoiler reading vlog, because it's an old franchise and stuff, and what I'm going to do is I want to put all of the first 5 books in, like, of the Percy Jackson in one vlog, and then I want to do Heroes of Olympus, the Kane Chronicles, and then Magnus Chase as separate stuff, because that's the books I own by Rick Riordan. Why do I own all of those books? I don't know, I just do. And then after that, I'm probably gonna do a 100 book bucket list video on the Iliad, and then that followed up by the Odyssey, which will probably also be spoilers. And then I don't know, I might do a Doctor Who reading vlog, because I own a lot of Doctor Who books. But yeah, I don't know when these will come out. Sometime in hopefully the next year. I know the Percy Jackson one's probably gonna happen this year, and probably the other stuff as well. But yeah. But with that being said, please like and subscribe, comment, share with your friends the other lovely YouTube stuff, and thank you for watching. Bye!